Order up! Now serving a quick pep talk with Dr. Darin Detweiler, presented by Detweiler Consulting Group, known for their mission to protect every plate.
Hi, I'm in Washington, D.C. More specifically, I'm at the Library of Congress, where I am a library card holder at the Library of Congress. Today, I spent several hours in the Jefferson Building, where I was doing research on some early, we're talking 1906, policies regarding the Meat Inspection Act, the Pure Food and Drug Act. Specifically, I was looking at some of the efforts to get it passed, but also some of the opposition in terms of getting that passed. You know, it is Food Safety Education Awareness Month, and I think that it's not enough to just know about what's going on today when it comes to food safety. It's also important that our legislators in Washington, D.C. have some sense of the history of food safety policy in the United States. We have to look at what have been the trends, what has been effective, what has not been effective. And there are times where I hear discussion that it sounds as if, do they understand what was the original reason for that law in the first place? Have elected officials become myopic of the reasons why certain regulations were passed? If we're going to look at the political perspectives on these issues, we also have to take into consideration the legal perspective. For instance, what might the Supreme Court do with an issue like this? Let's take into consideration their recent overturning of Chevron. What impacts will this have? So, in terms of Food Safety Education Month, it's important for us to understand that our elected officials only know what is presented to them. And quite honestly, so much of what is presented to them is from lobbyists. It's from industry. We need to make sure that in terms of protecting food safety, that legislators understand the true burden of disease. They understand their constituents and their needs and their preferences, their desires, and what they really want in terms of federal support for food safety awareness, strong, efficient, and effective policy, and the idea of the future of food safety. If policymakers are going to say things like America has the safest food supply in the world, then we need to make sure that we're not using it as an excuse, but as a reason to do more. Right now, I'm on my way across the street over to the Capitol building, our nation's capital that is, where I'm going to be visiting the Senate gallery and watching our elected officials at work. Let's go. So here we are. This is the nation's capital, if you're not aware of it. This, again, as I mentioned before, right across the street from the Supreme Court building and right across the street on this direction from the Library of Congress. Again, it's extremely essential that our elected officials are not myopic of the reasons behind our laws. That when we look at the idea of an open policy window, i.e., when it is the time to talk about improving food safety, whether it be with the USDA or the FDA or even some other federal agency, we understand the history behind our existing laws and the rationale and the drive behind change to whether it is modernize, change, or completely revise our laws when it comes to food safety. When I talk about things like awareness, allies, advocacy, and activism, I think it's extremely important for our elected officials and for their staffers to be aware of these issues so that they can be better allies and work along with and even become an advocate on these issues. We should not have to rely solely on activists, especially in terms of the perspective of the consumer, to be the only people that have this knowledge and are the driving force for effective, efficient policy when it comes to food safety. All stakeholders are important in this. And quite honestly, all stakeholders eat. This is why it's important that we're all together in our journey to protect every plate. I hope this talk puts a pep in your step and inspires you on your journey to protect every plate.
We hope you've enjoyed this pep talk from Detweiler Consulting Group. This has been a PEP Nexus production. Be sure to check out www.pepnexus.com for additional resources and information. thank you for your Herculean effort to protect every plate.